What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the Game Week 2 preview, so I'm going to take you through the latest news, go through some hot topics, and then answer some of your questions as well. So let's get into it. So let's start with the news that apparently Spurs have agreed a deal with Crystal Palace for Eberiche Eze. Now, at the time recording, that deal hasn't gone through. It may well have done by the time you watch this video, but it looks like one of those moves that's going to happen. And a few people have already asked me whether or not Eze is going to be a good pick at Spurs. And I think the simple answer to that is yes. The good thing is, because it's Man City away for Spurs in Game Week 2, it doesn't matter if this deal goes through this week. There's no need to rush him in. But after that, the fixtures are pretty good. Bournemouth at home, West Ham away, Brighton away, Wolves at home, Leeds away will be the next 5. Then it's Villa at home in Game Week 8 as well. He's presumably being brought in to play in that number 10 role. James Maddison is out for pretty much the whole season. Kulusevski will be back at some point, but Eze is going to be the main player in there. His minutes will be good. Whether or not he'll take some set pieces off of Porro, I'm not sure, but he may well do. He won't have penalties, which he has had at times last season for Palace, although we all think Mateta is probably first choice there at the moment anyway, because I think Solanke and Richarlison at Spurs will have that duty. But he's just going to be a good pick in that role. Whether or not he's going into a more attacking team, Spurs, than Crystal Palace, right now I don't think you can say that is a guarantee, because Crystal Palace are a very good team. But adding Eze to Kudus, to Solanke, to Richarlison is only going to improve that Spurs attack. So I think he's a really good pick. He's not going to become essential from Game Week 3, but for anyone that's looking to downgrade a midfielder, if you started with Wirtz or Fernandes, someone like that, you want to free up a little bit of money, Eze might be the one from Game Week 3. If you're going this week, I still really like Semenyo, but Eze is definitely on the table as a pick when he goes to Spurs. I should say if he goes to Spurs, but it's looking quite likely now. So a few people took a punt on Tosin from Chelsea, 4.5 million defender. You got extremely unlucky with this one because we found out after the deadline that he had an injury. Maresca didn't disclose that information in the press conference. These things can happen in FPL. They don't happen that often, but obviously it is frustrating when it does. The good news is his injury is apparently described as very minor. The current plan is for him to return to training later this week, so he could absolutely be in the team for Game Week 2 against West Ham away. We'll wait and see what Maresca says later this week. Worst case scenario, he misses that, and then presumably he's back in for Fulham at home in Game Week 3. I wouldn't necessarily describe him as nailed on, because Chelsea do have quite a few centre-back options to pick from, and they may well sign another one in the transfer window. But I'm pretty sure if he is fit to start West Ham away, he will be in that 11. So I wouldn't rush to do anything with him. He's only 4.5 million. If you're looking to bench boost this week, then obviously you'll need to pay close attention to what Maresca says. If there's any doubts there, I would sell him to someone else. But for everyone else that is just mostly using him as a squad player, that you can play in some of the good fixtures, bench him in others, there's probably no need to panic right now. He should be back soon. So let's talk about captaincy for Game Week 2. Right now, the order I've got them in is Saka at the top, then Haaland, then Salah, then Cole Palmer. I've included Gyökeres at the bottom because I think people will expect me to talk about him, but I don't think he's a great captain pick this week. He probably will start against Leeds. I don't have too many doubts about that. And he probably will be on penalties ahead of Saka. It's just the minutes. He came off just before the 60th minute against Man United, and something like that could happen again. I suspect he'll play a little bit more, but 65, 70 minutes, if he's still building up match fitness, Havertz is right there waiting. And I want a little bit more security from my captain. If you want to take the punt, more than welcome. Leeds at home is a good fixture. But I think I would probably go elsewhere for one of those other premium players instead. Saka at the top, mostly because of the fixture. Leeds played very well against Everton, but home to Everton is a different proposition to away to Arsenal. So I think we'll see a few goals in this one for Arsenal. Saka's going to be on the pitch pretty much the whole time. And if Gyökeres gets subbed off, Saka presumably will go back to taking penalties anyway. So I do like him as a captain if you've got him in your team. I think it's hard if you've got Saka in your team to not captain him. I just don't see why you would own him if you're not going to do that. With Haaland, up against Spurs at home, I'm pretty confident that Thomas Frank will start in a back three again like he did against PSG. I don't think that necessarily puts me off going for Haaland. I think him at home is almost a banker in most game weeks. So I think he would be second on this list ahead of Salah. Salah's against Newcastle away. That is a tough game. It's got added bite this week as well because of the whole Isak situation. I'm quite torn between him versus Palmer. It feels a little bit knee-jerky to go for Palmer just because West Ham conceded 3 to Sunderland. Because pre-season, I was thinking that Salah would be my captain in Game Week 2. But Palmer's also been so frustrating for so long in FPL. I don't know if I can trust him. So Palmer's definitely got the fixture, but I feel more confident in getting a return from Salah than Palmer right now. So I'd probably have Salah just ahead, but there's not really much in it if you want to go for Palmer. But if you're someone sat there on Saka or Haaland, they're the ones to go for. Also, as much as Haaland's ownership will go up a little bit this week after his brace in game week 1, right now he's quite a differential over Salah and Palmer. So again, I think you've got to take them on. So if you've got Saka, he's the one for me. Next up, it's Haaland. And then if you're on a Salah-Palmer draft like me, I've got Salah just ahead of Palmer, but there's not much in it. If you wanted to go differential, Palmer's the one out of that combination. So a few people asked me to go through a free hit draft for game week 2 for those of you that are looking to use the chip this week. This is what I came up with, a 3-4-3 draft. Interestingly, my 3 forwards are Haaland, Watkins and Evan-Nilsson. So no room for Gyökeres. That's based off what I just spoke about with captaincy, not trusting his minutes. If you think he's going to play 75 to 80 minutes or even the full game, then you should absolutely include him. But if he gets another 60-ish minute sub, I just don't think it's worth it. And the thing with Arsenal, as bad as it feels to only pick one attacker against Leeds at home, it's always nice just to pick their defence because they're so good. So I've got Raya, Gabriel and Saka rather than a double or triple up on attack. If you wanted to go for an Odegaard, a Martinelli, or even go for Gyökeres, you absolutely should, right? It's your free hit chip. You should use it exactly how you want. But when I look at the forwards, Haaland, Watkins and Evan-Nilsson, if I swap Gabriel and Evan-Nilsson to, I don't know, another Bournemouth defender and Gyökeres, I just don't feel as good about it. At least with Evan-Nilsson, Watkins, Haaland up front, I'm getting pretty much close to 90 minutes with each of those players. And they've all got good fixtures. Like Haaland's a no-brainer. Watkins is against a Brentford team that have just shipped 3 to Forest. And Evan-Nilsson's up against Wolves, a team that's just scored... Sorry, Bournemouth are a team that's just scored 2 against Liverpool. Like, what could they do at home to Wolves? So that's why I've not included Gyökeres. I completely understand that a lot of people hate that. It's your chip. You should put him in. Elsewhere, alongside Raya and Gabriel in defence, I've got Truffaut from Bournemouth. Look really attacking against Liverpool in that left-back spot. I think as a long-term pick, I'd probably go Senesi for those defensive contributions. But for a one-off game when defensive contribution points are capped at 2, I'd probably go for the more attacking player. And then because I fit in, or because I've put in Watkins, Haaland, Palmer and Saka, you still have to go for a few cheap picks. So I've got Esteve from Burnley up against Sunderland at home. I know everyone's talking about the 3 Sunderland goals against West Ham, but let's see, it's just one game. Let's not react too much. Burnley are the home team here. Semenyo looked great against Liverpool. He's in as well. And then Reinders. Not because I think he's the new Lionel Messi, not because I think he's essential, but he is a nice cheap pick. And again, I've got Saka, Palmer, Haaland and Watkins. Now Palmer, I know I've talked about trust with him. A few people getting cold feet already. It is West Ham away though. So no Salah in this draft. It's quite difficult to fit him in if you want Saka and Haaland as well. I just think maybe this is a week to go against him if you're going on free hit. You're going to captain Saka anyway or Haaland. Just maybe not the end of the world. And then the bench is just Dubravka, King, Hartman and Reinildo. 3 £4 million players and then Josh King who's 4.5. So I quite like how that's set up. I think primarily you're looking at maybe 1 Burnley player just because of the fixture. 3 Arsenal, probably Haaland. Reinders for most people, and then you just fill in the blanks after that. So yeah, looks pretty nice, but you could definitely set it up a different way if you wanted to. So let's get into some of your questions. This is a good follow-up to what we just spoke about. I've got 0 Arsenal players. Is free hit game week 2 viable? The answer to that question is yes, absolutely viable. Ideally, you would have decided this in pre-season because it might have changed how your game week 1 squad would have looked like if you knew you were absolutely certain to free hit in game week 2, but that doesn't mean you can't use it. Essentially, if you're going to use it in the first 6 weeks, it's all about which player to bring in is most important to you. At least that's how I would view it. So game week 2, priority is probably Arsenal against Leeds at home, maybe Haaland against Spurs at home as well. Game week 4, Liverpool against Burnley away. You're probably going to want Salah that week if you can. And then game week 6 is Burnley at home. You're probably going to want Haaland that week if you can. So which week you free hit in is probably dictated by what your squad looks like right now. If you've gone for a Haaland Saka draft, you're not free hitting this week. You're going to save it till game week 4 probably for getting Salah in against Burnley away. Likewise, you don't need it in game week 6 so much because you've already got Haaland in place. If you're on a Salah Palmer draft like I am, you don't need to free hit in game week 4 to get Salah, but you might use it in game week 2 to get Saka or game week 6 to get Haaland. So which week you use it in will depend on what your priority is in terms of which player you feel like you absolutely need. So for example, right, if I'm thinking about my team, which is currently a Palmer Salah draft, yes, game week 2, Saka against Leeds at home would be nice. And obviously having Haaland against Spurs at home would be nice as well. But I think my priority is having Haaland for Burnley at home in game week 6. I think I'm more feeling like I need him that week than I do Saka this week, because my alternative captains in game week 6 would be Salah against Palace away, which is okay, but Haaland is definitely miles better against Burnley at home, or Palmer against Brighton at home, which again is okay. He did really well against Brighton last season, but I'd much rather have Haaland. Whereas in game week 2, I do prefer Saka captain to both Salah and Palmer, but the level of how much better I think Saka is than the alternatives in game week 2 is less than Haaland versus the alternatives in game week 6, if that makes sense. Now, with free hit game week 6, it's become a little bit less valuable because most people already own Reinders or they're going to bring him in. So you're only adding 2 City players that week. But I still think I would rather leave myself the option to get Haaland that week if I don't wildcard or don't want to use transfers on him than to blow my free hit this week. But again, your team might be set up in a different way. If you're going to wildcard in game week 6 or 4, then obviously just use it now and get the Arsenal players in because you can get Haaland in on your wildcard later on. So it's absolutely viable, but which week you use it in will be dictated on what your team looks like right now. So at what rank would you think about wildcarding? For example, I'm 9 million overall rank and I just can't stop thinking about it. It's my worst start to a season ever. So I've got some thoughts and maybe some advice about this before I answer the actual question. 1, don't worry too much about rank this early on. Even a 5 to 10 point difference between teams can be millions in terms of overall rank after just 1 week. And ultimately, those 5 to 10 points can easily be clawed back. So it's not as bad as it looks. And also, this season is even worse for that because people will have used chips. Because we've got double chips, people are going to use them earlier than normal. So until you've used yours, it's hard to know where you stand versus someone else. Like if someone's already used their bench boost, well, I've still got that to come. Now, it might end up being rubbish, but it could end up being really good. And all of a sudden, I've clawed some points back. So there's no use worrying about it this early, especially with double chips. The other thing I would say, if you can, don't check your overall rank. It's not good for your decision-making process because you're thinking about wildcarding because of where your rank is, not because your team might need a wildcard. So if you can avoid checking it for even like the first 15 to 20 weeks, I think you will make better decisions and you'll learn later on. It doesn't matter right now as much as people say. And I know some people are going to comment, well, I would say that, right? I'm 6.5 million. If you go back to my videos when I've had good starts over previous seasons, I've said that every time. Things change very quickly early on. You could get to game week 5 and 6 and already be in the top 100k. It can swing that much. So try and not worry about it. And if you can, don't check your rank. I'm pretty sure, and it would be difficult, if I didn't make YouTube content where people want to know my rank all the time, I just probably wouldn't check it. I would really try and not check it. I don't think it's useful for making decisions. So anyway, to get back to the question, at what rank would I think about wildcarding? I would ignore rank and I would think about whether my team actually needs a wildcard. Have all those players you picked for game week 1 genuinely been so bad, you need to change it now? Because for most people, if they're thinking about wildcarding right now, it's to chase last week's points. It's to get Haaland in, it's to get Reinders, etc. Those players could blank in game week 2. I don't think that will happen. I think Spurs at home is a good fixture, but it could happen. So if I try and look at my team objectively, lots of people have already told me this needs a wildcard. Objectively, it just really doesn't. Like, it really doesn't. Would I like Reinders in there instead of Dewsbury Hall? Yes. Is that enough to wildcard? Of course it's not. That's ridiculous. Would I like Haaland in there instead of Palmer and Watkins? Possibly. But again, Watkins got Brentford away next week. Palmer's got West Ham away. They're capable of doing really well. Both those players are capable in that fixture of matching Haaland. Now, my money would be on Haaland, but it could happen, and both of those players are cheaper. Salah could go and get something against Newcastle. Bruno Fernandes has just had the toughest game, or one of the toughest games he's going to have all season. Now he's got Fulham away and Burnley at home. He's okay to leave for a couple of weeks. Wirtz, when he first came in, everyone was saying how underpriced he is. Now we've got to get rid of him. People are so reactionary in the first couple of game weeks. It's absolutely unreal. Do I wish my defence looked a bit better this week? Yes, but over the next few weeks, I've already checked. It looks fine most weeks. So would I make changes if I wildcarded? Yes. Does that team really need a wildcard? Of course not. So the fact I'm 6.5 million when I'd rather be top 50k just has no... It's nothing to base your decisions around, is what I'm trying to say. Does your team need a wildcard? How many changes are you going to make? How many upgrades are there? If the answer is not many, just relax a little bit and use it when you actually need it. So would you transfer Konsa out to stick to the original bench boost plan for game week 2? Or would you rather keep the transfer and plan for a new bench boost week? Now, you've heard me already in videos this game week saying I value rolling the transfer quite a lot, having flexibility going into game week 3. But for people that went Konsa, you got unlucky. You might need to use a transfer. The problem with waiting for a future week is if you've set up for bench boost in game week 2, are you definitely going to have a better week later on? And the longer you leave it, the more issues that might crop up in your team. So you might decide, I'm just going to use it in game week 5 when Konsa plays Sunderland away, but you might get to game week 5 and someone else might be injured. So if the bench is looking really good apart from Konsa, I think I would be tempted to just use a transfer. And I'll come on to which players you could look at in a minute. Basically, what I would do, like for my team, so this is on Fantasy Football Hub. As always, if you want to sign up, there is 50% off right now. And if you sign up and don't win your min league, you will get your money back. Terms and conditions apply. Links in the description below. But this is my team, right? This week for me is probably not a bench boost week because of Mark Guiu. Now, he's probably someone I'm going to have to deal with at some point, so I don't think he's going to get enough minutes for a bench boost. But anyway, I would be looking through the defence and just seeing if there's a week where the bench looks particularly good. So game week 3, for example, Agbadou, Nico Williams, Pedro Porro, Everton, West Ham and Bournemouth at home looks quite good. But then I've got Anderson against Chelsea away, Esteve against Man United away. That's not a bench boost week. Game week 4, I've got Esteve against Liverpool, Nico Williams against Arsenal, Agbadou against Newcastle. That week actually doesn't look great for my defence at all. I'll worry about that later. Game week 5 looks pretty good. So Pedro Porro is against Brighton away, which is not ideal, but everyone else is against Burnley away, Leeds at home, Brentford at home, Forest at home. So already, I'm thinking for my team, maybe that's a week I could think about getting a bench boost activated. Maybe I downgrade one of my players in the team and I upgrade Guiu. I don't know. Dewsbury Hall's got Liverpool away, so it's probably not ideal. But potentially that's a bench boost week. Game week 6, Abadou's got Spurs away, Esteve's got City away. I might free hit that week, etc. You need to do this for your own team, and it's not me trying to get out of the question, but everyone's team is set up differently. I can't tell you specifically which week is going to look really good because your defence might look different to mine. So for me, game week 5 potentially looks good, but I've got to probably get rid of Dewsbury Hall for Liverpool away and upgrade Mark Guiu. That's probably going to take me 3 transfers to get money out of another position. So that's when I might want a bench boost. You might have different defenders and that just doesn't work out. So I think for most people, I would probably stick to the original plan and just get someone else in unless you've got a really good week coming up soon. In terms of replacements for this week specifically, I do quite like Bournemouth against Wolves at home. So Senesi probably for the defensive contributions. Truffaut if you want to go a bit more attacking. I wouldn't buy another Villa defender. Luca D. Maatsen, there's just too much competition. Maybe Matty Cash. I probably wouldn't go there. Arsenal defenders are probably... Arsenal defenders, if you can get to them, but they're quite expensive. You're not going to be able to go from Konsa to Gabriel. No one's got 1.5 million in the bank. And Crystal Palace, I really like them, like Richards. They've also got Sunderland at home in game week 4. So you could go and get Richards. Maybe Gay, but he could still leave before the transfer window shuts. So I probably wouldn't risk that. So yeah, depends on your team, unfortunately. And with double chips, that's going to matter more than ever. So would you do Palmer to Saka just for the captaincy option this game week and then keep him long term? The answer is probably not. If that was always your original intended plan, then fair enough, go through with it. But I doubt it was for many people. So I just don't think I would make that switch. Primarily because of what I said in pre-season. I think long term, for the first 6 or so game weeks, Palmer is the better option. Now this week, of course, Arsenal against Leeds at home is better than West Ham away. But in game week 3, Fulham at home, not an easy fixture for Chelsea, but it's better than Liverpool away. Game week 4, Palmer's got Brentford away. Saka's got Forest at home. Now, most of the time, you'd rather have the home fixture, but Brentford defence probably going to be worse this season than Forest. Game week 5, Chelsea are up against Man United away. Arsenal have got City at home. I would say because Chelsea are away, those fixtures are probably much of a muchness. But then game week 6, Chelsea got Brighton at home. Saka's got Newcastle away. So in the next 5 weeks, I would say game week 2 this week is better. Maybe game week 4, but there's not much in it. Otherwise, I'd probably just rather have Palmer. So again, it depends whether you value Saka captaincy miles ahead of your other options. And for me, I'd much rather roll a transfer in captain Palmer or Salah than I would get Saka in because I just don't think he's an amazing option after that, not long term. Maybe from game week 7 onwards, but that's quite a long way away. You might even pop your wildcard before then to get those Arsenal players in. So I just don't think it's worth worrying about. If it was your intended plan all along, fair enough. If you're now worried about it, I probably wouldn't do it. So this is always a good question. How quickly should I move to players that are in good form? For example, Reinders and others. Now, form is a topic in FPL that has been debated to death over many, many years. My general opinion is it doesn't matter anywhere near as much as people make out. It's a good way to describe what's happened, not necessarily a great way to predict what's about to happen. So, for example, if a player scores 5 goals in 5 games, I'm happy to say they're in form. What I don't necessarily think is that that means they're going to continue scoring at a heavy rate. I'd rather look at what the stats have been, what the fixtures upcoming are looking like and stuff like that, rather than what they've actually done. It doesn't always work out. There's no bulletproof scientific way to pick players necessarily. I just disagree that form is the best way to do it. So take Reinders as the example in your question. I already think he's a great pick. You don't need to see more games. If you're confident he's going to play regular minutes, he's less than 6 million in a Man City team that's going to score a lot of goals. You know, his numbers will probably be good for most of this season. He's already a good pick. You don't need to see more games. The key question is, do you have someone that you actually need to sell? That is more important. So that is why I'm just not the biggest fan of form for predictions. And people always change the parameters of what form means. Like take João Pedro. He did really well in pre-season, the Club World Cup. You can say he's in form, but at no point did João Pedro make my Game Week 1 team because I didn't necessarily think that he was the best pick at that price. And this is not a dig at anyone that picked him just because he's blanked in one game. He could do really well over the next few weeks, but his form in pre-season basically meant nothing to me. Strand Larsen, I've got in my team. I cannot tell you how many goals he scored in pre-season. I've got no idea because it just doesn't matter to me whatsoever. I just think at 6.5 with the fixtures they've got coming up, he's just good value. So I'm more interested in stats, value, fixtures and stuff like that. And Reinders ticks a lot of those boxes. But does that mean he's essential to get in right now? No. But it also doesn't mean that you need to wait another 3 or 4 games for him to do well. We already know he's going to be a good pick. We don't need form to tell us that. It's just my opinion. I know people disagree. Look at Chris Wood last season, absolutely killed me, for example. But again, right, if form is so good as a predictor, why has Chris Wood just scored 2 goals when he did next to nothing in pre-season? It just doesn't matter, right? Stats, fixtures, that is probably more important. In most cases, in my opinion, you are welcome to disagree. If you found that video useful, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button. And check out Fantasy Football Hub. Links in the description below. 50% off at the moment. If you join up and don't win your mini, you will get your money back. Terms and conditions apply for that. All the links you need are in the description below. I'll catch you tomorrow for team selection.